Hey guys, you're here. I'm doing it live. I'm doing it live. I'm live with you, live and alive, five alive. Not a thing. Anyway, so just had the most incredible, wild, crazy, wonderful, peaceful, joyful, freeing, loving, beautiful experience with the delightful Elias Patras and our incredible. I mean, I can't even tell you how incredible and beautiful and wonderful everybody was who came to our event, which was Express Yourself Through Writing. And we did that in Mechanicsville, Iowa, which was just so like breathtaking. I could not believe it. I was like, no, no. Is this what Iowa is? Just really beautiful and a beautiful space at Tiramu's sanctuary. So, and it really was a sanctuary, a healing space. Incredible, moving experience for me too. I, I mean, I really let everything kind of penetrate, my defenses, my fears, my doubts. Even about, I used to do a lot of different types of retreats a long time ago when I had my hypnotherapy clinic. And I forgot how beautiful that whole experience can be. Um, and of course, I've done some amazing work with Celebrate Your Life events with Liz Dawn, and she's just incredible. And the whole team, the Scream team, Mi Familia. I mean, just incredible work. And so, but this is just a little bit different. Very small, intimate gathering of writers and creatives and a collective energy of coming together to create a new collaboration. And so I experienced a tremendous amount of healing for myself, even though I was the one that was, putting it on. I think that's something that's so powerful that if you, as the facilitator, can be facilitated, in those moments and recognize it, for me at least, I mean, I was completely discombobulated. I was off balance. I did 15 things I hated before 11 a.m., getting on a plane and doing the thing and being around. Bleh, and, you know, it was just sucked. I gotta tell you, it sucked. Waking up at 2 a.m. It was not fun. And they all heard about it. They all knew I was not happy about any of it. And the fear and the doubt and all the stuff that comes up whenever we're in the process of doing something we haven't done for a while and in a new way or a new approach. And so, anyway, gratefully, lovingly, amazingly, empoweringly, um, I got to be around people that are in their own right, incredible creative energies, incredibly creative souls. So much so they didn't even know how incredibly creative they were. And that's just really beautiful to be around. I'm gonna cry because I've just been crying all weekend, like you do. I know you're like, wait, it's Thursday, isn't it? I don't know. Is it Thursday? Doing qigong and energy work and feeling the flow. I mean, just getting to be myself. I mean, I say fuck more than anybody has ever said fuck ever. And I said all of them this weekend, all of it. I was just allowing myself to be me. And what Elias brought up, because I had a really potent moment, a tearful moment of connection on an old traumatic experience. And it was through what was sparked was one is that we were just all kind of open and feeling our feelings and being in the moment of whatever was coming up for all of us. And what I found was that um what I found is that the vulnerability that comes, whether you are being facilitated in those moments or whether you're facilitating, it doesn't really matter. Because Elias said to me, he said, that really humanized you to me. And I can come off that way really potently. Like nothing is bothering me, nothing's upsetting me, I'm okay, everything's fine. And a lot of times people don't know what the inside world is for me. Sometimes I show it, but not all the time. And being in a place where I felt safe to do that, safe to express, and creating that safe environment for myself through clear boundaries, through understanding, you know, what I needed to be a better facilitator, and what I know as being facilitated in the past, what I needed the facilitator to create for me in order for me to be able to share. So Elias already does this in like, it's incredible at doing that anyway. And one of the first things that he did was so valuable for me was that he did not, and this has happened many times before, and I'm so grateful that people understand these things, but food is a really hard thing for me traveling. I have a hard time eating what my body can resonate with, but I can also have a hard time with um being vocal about that, and instead I'll just kind of either not eat anything or eat very little or eat all of the wrong things, because I'm hungry. When we're in a retreat process, we're starving because our brain is opening up to different areas and functionality that we don't normally experience. So, but I wanted to answer a few questions about retreats in general, specifically writing retreats, creativity retreats, because that's what we're going to be focused on for the towards the end of this year and going into next year. So my idea for this year is I'm going to do, I think, two virtual retreats where we are going to connect a collaboration book to them. Those two retreats, or three, I haven't decided if I have enough energy for three or not. But those retreats, we're going to come together and we're going to create a collaboration book together, and then I'll open it up to the public. But we're going to facilitate an opening of collective voices, and this was so powerful this past weekend because we created a collaboration project together. So 11 voices came together to determine what that was going to be. And so I'm very excited to announce that. I'll announce that probably pretty soon. I'm going to put it out to my folks, my authors first, and then the ones that continually come to us and they are ready to write and they want to write and they want to contribute. I want to offer that honoring piece because it feels so important to me that those people who have jumped on board with almost every book or who have honored their voice or who stepped into this process maybe very recently but are wanting to, get out there more and more. I want that. I want that for I want you guys to feel that first, and just because you already are saying yes to yourself, and then we'll open it up to everyone else. But that's coming. But these virtual retreats, I'm thinking I'm going to either do two, like a 2-day thing or a 3-day thing, like a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday type of thing. And it's really important because I want to talk about this particular subject is that you don't have to go anywhere necessarily to experience the power of the approach that I'll present to you, where you really get deep with those soulful moments of writing and creating and allowing that flow to move through you. We have that, you know, in person at a much, much deeper, more profound level. And that'll be a retreat we'll do in Ashland probably before the end of the year or maybe at the end of the summer, going in the fall, probably Octoberish. So been thinking about that. I really felt empowered this weekend to contribute in this way, and I can only from my heart truly say that that would not have, I don't think, come about as fully and completely as it did without the people that came this weekend. And so I just want to thank them from the bottom of my heart, our our authors from this weekend. Completely new to me. Only I think one author came in that um, was somebody that I already knew. That's been in a couple other books. So lots of movement forward there, and I'm very excited about it. But I wanted to answer just a couple questions about like the writing retreat approach. And so here we go. As soon as I find my, that's great. All right. So some of the questions that people ask, so whether it's a virtual or an in-person, we can kind of ask ourselves these kinds of questions because these things, do cost money. We are working on how we can handle the money approach to things, because, I try to be as affordable as possible, but I want to integrate being in the collaboration book with the virtual retreat fee and investment. And so then, we're kind of bringing it all together. So it's one really cool, groovy thing. But I think retreats in all ways are very important. So writing retreats, how stepping away can help you move forward, right? Why do writing retreats work when regular writing routines don't? This is like one of the most important questions I think it's to ask yourself. So when we go to school, like let's say we went to school for writing, I don't know anything about terrible. I know what I like. I know what I don't like, right? And I know that I'm terrible when it comes to grammar and that kind of stuff, but my husband's great at that. So we always find who we need. So it really causes you to step out of your typical dynamic. And what I would require of my virtual attendees is that they shut the door, or go where I'm asking them to go. Like if I'm telling them to go to a park or if I'm telling them to go somewhere or, carry us with them and, maybe we're on the phone or something. Um, to not be influenced and taking that time for themselves. It's so important to put that boundary up in your everyday life where it says, this is my writing time, because otherwise you get pulled and people want and nah, and nah. But going away retreat is even better for that because you're completely out of that mental dynamic that is, your heart goes out to the person that needs your attention. They don't need your attention. It's just a trick of the ego. It's not really true. And I know it's like you can argue with me upside one, down the other. I get it. I understand how that could feel. I do it to myself too. But ultimately, breaking that down and saying, no, they're okay. And then closing that door or closing that energetic thing so that you can go, I'm going to be focused on this. And it can feel really good. So going away to a retreat, easy, easy, easy. Being at home and setting that time aside is a bit more challenging if you don't live alone or if you have a whole family dynamic thing that's pulling your attention away. So going away, you get out of your daily routine. Really good. If you're doing it virtually, you're going to have stronger boundaries. How can I make the most of a writing retreat, especially if I'm stuck or burned out? So I think for that one is not trying to perform. Start by listening, give yourself permission to rest first. Take a walk, journal, sit in silence. You know, writer's block isn't really real. It's just a nervous system overload. So a retreat gives you space to re-regulate, and once you're calmer, then the writing tends to come through. But what I do with my folks that are taking my classes, retreats, courses, any of that stuff, is that I don't ask them to write right away, and it's just to this, answer here because there's so much that's going on simultaneously. So let's say you do go to a retreat, and if you're like me, it's like that first day, it's like, I got to re-regulate my nervous system because I was just on a plane, a car, and a boat, and it doesn't feel good. So I can't just say, okay, now I'm going to be super creative, but I haven't gotten any sleep. I don't, I haven't eaten properly. I haven't exercised. My body is stiff from sitting down, that kind of stuff. So what I like to do with my folks is first is giving permission. You have permission to do whatever that creative force, that inspiring force is needing right now. And maybe it's a nap, you know, maybe it's drinking a lot of water, or maybe it's taking a walk, just like I said. Maybe it's journaling some nonsense that just no one is going to want to see. A lot of times I have people talk it out, talk out their stories. Don't write them down, just talk them out or jot down some notes. And we do some exercises that help with having things that you can use later. That if you need to call on a story or an idea, that you'll have them available. So there's never writer's block. It's just a trick of the ego. That whole thing is, oh, I just can't write. Yes, you can. It's just that you may not have any sparks to get to the thing that you're wanting to write about, or you want to instead write about something completely different. And that helps move the momentum forward. So if you've been doing nothing but writing, it's time to maybe sit back and start to edit. Start to edit a little bit, or start to pull out the really big ideas. We're like, ooh, I really want to make sure this is in my chapter or my book, or, that kind of thing. Do I need to go somewhere fancy or far away to have a real retreat? And no, you don't. That's why I want to offer the virtual ones as well as the in-person ones, because that gives you an option. And I'm telling you, I have done some of the most amazing online retreats with people. Usually small group. I probably won't have many in the or won't offer like really large group tickets or anything like that, because I'm a small group girl. I'm just always have been. I like it. I like it. It's easier for me to manage. I feel like the information doesn't get diluted. I feel like, there's a real camaraderie that happens, a real understanding of the techniques. You can go a bit deeper. So I might cap um, some of my events. I think I'm capping my Ashland event, which is going to be all about writing with the archetypes. I think I'm capping that one at 12 people, because we're going to be going all over Ashland. We're going to just be, like going to like Lithia Park, and we're going to go into the different hotels and the library. There's just a really super great, cool library. Having teaching space, but also having open space to kind of just roam and, shop and, do all kinds of fun stuff that kind of integrates it, not just as and food. Oh my God, and wine. Oh my God. If you want to drink wine, if you don't, you don't. I've been kind of staying away from things like that, but sometimes people like that. So, and I know I do. I do. If it's right. I haven't decided on those kinds of rules yet, because I want you to feel healthy and strong and balanced and hydrated. Really important. Um, but definitely food. The food in Ashland is unprecedentedly good. And this is Oregon, by the way. So anyway, where am I at? So a real retreat can be you doing writing rituals at home for yourself. It doesn't have to be even facilitated by anyone. And in fact, I would recommend that. Maybe I'll write a book on writing rituals for home, the whatever. So I think that would be really fun to do too. So think of some things that you can do. But the first thing is you set clear boundaries, turn off your phone, let people know you're not available, design a schedule, and then prioritize your space to create. So if you need to like clean off a desk, find a corner, get cross-legged, get on a little meditation mat, do something like that where you just find that special sacred space for yourself. I think you're going to really enjoy the process of creating. There is a difference between journaling and writing for expression, because journaling is kind of whatever, comes into your mind. You may have prompts, you may not. Um, you may want to, journaling can be sometimes writing letters to yourself or to others, and it's not meant for the world. This is when you get petty and angry and tearful and sad and frustrated, and this is where you find the edges of your voice. That's where journaling comes in. It's where you find the edges of your voice. I like that. I don't know where that came from, but just did just now. And then when you write and you cultivate that information, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, you're cultivating it. You're stirring up the soil. You're breaking up the soil at first with the journaling, and then you cultivate it and you plant the seeds of what it is you actually want to put in a book or in um, something. And by the way, if you're commenting on here, I can't see anything, but I love you and I appreciate you. Keep commenting. All right. We'll be done here. I just got two more questions I'd like to cover. What kinds of breakthroughs have you seen happen during writing retreat? I mean, just stop. Um, I I mean, I can speak for myself, of accessing the parts of our consciousness and our brain and our story is so incredibly powerful and moving. It's transformative. It breaks us open and then says, "Now, what do you want to say about that?" And it's just incredible. And so I'm not going to go too deep into that right now because it's such a personally deep experience that everybody has a different flow with. Like, for example, as a facilitator, I can see somebody that doesn't seem to be doing much on the outside, but they're duck on a pond and there's a lot going on inside. Whereas I can also see another person who seems to be, you know, really exposing the frayed wires inside and speaking to them, and speaking about how they're feeling and what's going on in them and the things that they want to express but they're afraid of or they're excited about, um, and then everywhere in between. And so I've seen, and then most of the time it's like afterwards or when we're close to being complete, a lot of times people will come to me and say, "What do you think about this?" privately. And that happens a lot. So, you hear my dog back here. Um, privately, because it can just be a little bit too much and they just want to make sure that they're on the right track. And so that happens a lot too. So the main thing is that what I have found is that people are changed. Maybe it's a big way and they're expressive of that big way. Maybe it's a big way and they're not expressive of that big way. And maybe it's clear there has been some change, like a physical change. I watch people's faces change, eyes change, their skin tone change. I see their posture change. I see their ability to connect with ideas that they didn't know to connect with before. I see that clarity and how they're speaking and their storytelling improve. That's just the wildest thing too. Not only are you transforming mentally and emotionally the belief in who you are, and now you're stepping into this role as a writer, but also the writing ability is better. And it's so funny, like for this weekend, how I watched the writing ability shift through their verbal storytelling by just sitting around the table and talking. And I was like, wow, their storytelling is improving because I listened to their storytelling in the beginning of the weekend. They didn't know I was listening. I love you guys if you're watching. They didn't know I was listening. Um, and then by the end of the weekend, they were telling stories more deeply, more richly, with more context, getting to the action quicker, understanding some of the dynamics that we're talking about. Even though I didn't need to write, I didn't need to read a paragraph of their writing to know that their concepts and the understanding of how they can be better storytellers improve. That's super dope. Okay. So we'll move on from that one, but everybody has their own connection with that. But I do think being in person far exceeds anything else, So there's that. Then the last one is, how do I integrate after the retreat so the momentum doesn't fade? So this one is really important. I would say make sure that you go through each one of the whatever your facilitator did during your experience, whether it was a certain activity or something that you really like that helped kind of bring you back to yourself, or maybe it was that one activity. Like, for example, we did a really cool thing where we put some limiting beliefs down. My dog is going nuts. We did there we go. We did kind of a writing down limiting beliefs on dissolvable paper. We did a really kind of meditative, wonderful thing that helped connect the dots on those. And we walked through a lot of that, stuff. So we were already into most of Saturday. So we could access some of that information and understanding of what's going on, and then writing it down, which is a whole other act of clarifying and accessing a different part of the brain. So that, and then we did dissolvable paper and did, some work around that. So then I had people going, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and grab a whole packet of dissolvable paper when I go home, and this is going to be an everyday thing. Well, I had a piece of dissolvable paper because I had a really horrible nightmare. I'm sorry, it wasn't a nightmare. I said that. It wasn't a nightmare. It was actually a very transformative moment in my dreams. It was a grieving dream, not a nightmare. And I woke up the next day and I wrote a letter to the person that I was grieving for, and I did a little ritual, lit a candle, did some like feather clearing stuff, which I learned from Elias, which was so cool. And I have my own feather. It's up there. I had my own feathers, so I was like doing the things that he was doing because it felt so good. So I cleared my energy, and then I went in, I wrote my letter, and then I lit the candle, and I had some stones, and I had some things that really connected my subconscious mind, my creative mind, my heart and soul, the grieving process, to help me move through some of the pain that I was experiencing, and sadness and joyfulness and love and connection and healing. And so it anchored it all in for me, which I don't normally do those things. I usually just try to work through things mostly mentally and emotionally. And to have some tools felt really powerful to me. So I did that myself. So it's so many times, we can learn from each other. I learned a great deal from those people coming to the event, and how it felt to remember that I don't know everything. I'm allowed to learn. I'm allowed to develop. And so that felt really positive. So so many things here. I'm incredibly grateful, and so is Jack. I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity to share this. Let me see if I answered that question fully. Um, I would definitely do something like a reentry plan. Coming back into the world after you've done a retreat can be a little bit startling. I'm going to tell you this story real quick. So I was at the airport. So after I have this like, releasing and clearing and balancing and connecting energy and meeting incredible people with incredible hearts and incredible integrity with their words, and in a beautiful space in Tiramisu, just absolutely breathtaking, and food, the best food ever. And I'm just walking through the airport, which is already stressful anyway to me. Walking through the airport, and I hear a guy go, well, he said some really horrible expletive type things to someone. I can't even really laugh about it, but it was like he just was very, very angry. I'll say it's the FNC word to some lady, and he just yelled at her. And I was like, "Oh, no, no, no. I'm not doing this. I am too protective of my beautiful bubble that I've been in this weekend. No, no, no." And so gratefully, as I was walking down the hall, I saw this sign that said socks. And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's happening." So I dip in there, and then it felt like this little cubby oasis. So everybody else was freaking out outside the airport in the lot, the like, where people go into the gates and stuff. And they were all freaked out because it was bad winds. It was in Denver and everybody was losing their mind and because their planes were late and they were trying to get their connecting flights and all this stuff. And gratefully, Spirit decided I didn't have to go through that whole thing. God. And then anyway, I dip in there and I see this young man, very sweetheart man. Um, and I'm like walking around the socks and I'm like feeling the socks. And they're all good feely socks. They're like super soft, but not too soft. Just the right amount of soft. And I'm just going around and I'm like reading them and they're funny or they're sweet or they're whatever. And I'm like, wow, I love it in here. And I said, I just want to say thank you. And he was like, okay. He goes, why? I said, you have got the best vibe in this store right now. Like, this is the best store I've been in, any airport I've ever been in. And he was like, thank you for saying that. And he was so gentle. And I was just like, wow, what a grateful moment to walk into a place that was already holding the energy of what I was already feeling. And we talk about how that all works together, right? I mean, like to like, and I could still see, if I turned and looked, I could see these people like running past and all this stuff. And so if I cherish that feeling of peace and I protect it, right, by upholding my boundaries and saying, "Oh, I don't, I'm gonna go, I'm going over here," then we can feel through that on a daily basis, right? We can feel when this way feels and this feels, without spiritually bypassing. Not going to get in all that, but we can tell when we're in the wrong place and we're in the right place. And if we move more that way, even after something like a writing retreat or a soulful retreat or something like that, we can continue to let that feeling last. And people say a lot, well, you get home and it's like, okay, we got to make the donuts. It's all over again. And da, 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 da. But if you've learned something, then you can keep that momentum going. But I will say that you have to do that with consistency, you know. If you did a Qigong practice or a moving meditation or a yoga practice while you're on retreat, continue doing that, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, and you'll keep slowly, gradually moving up your emotional, energetic scale. It's just the way that it is. So I felt the draw to come on and do this, and I'm so grateful that if you did listen, that you give me a little like or something. That would be nice. Or you could leave me a little share, give me a little sugar, give me a little love moment. Or if you learned something from this, great. If you just agree with something, great. If you don't agree with any of it, I don't know. I don't want you to say anything. I'll be honest. Don't say nothing. I don't care. I would love for you if you do have something to add. I would love to hear what you'd like to add. But okay, I've got stuff to do. So I thank you so much. And I'll be seeing you again soon. Oh, I'm gonna check just the Facebook world just to see if anybody said anything to me. So I know I don't know, see if there's any comments or anything. Great. No. So we should be all right, guys. I'll talk to you later.